Imagine a world where 3 billion animals die in a day, and yet, due to a lack of food, 25,000 people still die. This seems like a world that would destroy our planet, but this is the world that we actually already live in. Although food supply may not seem like a huge issue in comparison to the current state of the pandemic, it is still a major issue that needs to be addressed urgently. There are many current solutions to this issue, like improving infrastructure programs, reducing food waste, and donating to various food banks. These solutions may currently work, but the future solution of food supply, I believe, to be relatively new and unexplored. Before I continue on the problem of food supply, we need to address what food needs to be supplied. To understand this, we need to know what a balanced diet is. A balanced diet is needed to maintain a healthy lifestyle and to prevent illnesses relating to malnutrition and obesity. For example, in Indonesia, 9 million children under the age of 5 are stunted. This can be prevented through a balanced diet. But what exactly is a balanced diet? A balanced diet has changed, the definition of a balanced diet has changed over the years. Some saying that vegetables should be the main component. Some saying carbohydrates should. Some saying the opposite. But there's one thing that remains constant. Protein is important. Proteins help you build and repair body tissues, are essential building blocks in bone, skin, cartilage, blood, and muscles, and can produce enzymes and hormones. But there are still some major flaws with protein. But before I dive into that, what do you think of when you think of protein? Most of you would probably think of things like meat, fish, eggs, or beans. But which one of those are the highest quality and the most effective source of protein? According to multiple sources, animal-based proteins are, in general, a higher quality source of protein as compared to plant-based proteins. This is because animal-based proteins are a complete source of protein, meaning that they include all necessary amino acids for human consumption, while most plant-based proteins do not. Animal-based proteins also include many nutrients that plant-based proteins don't. For example, heme iron, which is much better absorbed by the body as compared to non-heme iron found in plants. But there are still some major flaws with animal-based meat. First, they are very inefficient with their energy output. It requires 25 calories of crops to produce 1 calorie of beef. It also produces a lot of pollution, which greatly affects climate change. But lastly, and most importantly, it is not sustainable. As the world's population increases, the amount of food and resources required to raise animals will also increase. And at a point, we will not have enough land and resources to provide for the planet. This is why we need to look at a new solution that also solves the problem of food supply. That solution, which I strongly believe in, is cell-based meat. What is cell-based meat? Cell-based meat is meat produced using vitro cell culture opposed to the conventional slaughtering of animals. It was introduced as a concept in the 2000s, and it uses similar methods as those used in regenerative medicine. But how is cell-based meat produced? Cell-based meat is produced by taking cells from tissues of a specific animal, and then you place them in a controlled and sterile environment, starting from a small flask and scaling up to a bioreactor. Then you give them basically food for them to grow, to be harvested and consumed. But why cell-based meat? Cell-based meat provides many benefits. First, they reduce pollution. If cell-based meat is widespread, cows in farms that produce methane, which will be reduced. It can also be mass-produced without the need for extra land or resources. Also, in the future, it can provide a lot of health benefits. By genetically modifying the origin cell from which the meat is produced, it can provide healthy, better results. All my life, I've always thought that the way that humans consume meat has always been wasteful and cruel. So that's why I researched into alternatives. And no alternative was as interesting to me as cell-based meat. It was a way of harvesting meat without the need to torture or kill a sentient animal, allowing me the vision of a world where there will be enough food for the world's population while still maintaining the animals and resources that we need for food. Some of you may argue that cell-based meat is not necessary, as a process which you kill where you kill animals is painless. But pain comes in many forms, and those animals' families will feel other kinds of pain, for example, grief. You may also argue that harvesting meat is natural. But just imagine, you are a tiny chicken, filled in a cramped-up room with 50 other chickens. The area is filled with poop and is extremely unhygienic. You'll have to experience that for 6 weeks until you ultimately just die. That is why I believe in cell-based meat. But when I researched more into cell-based meat, I found that there were some major flaws that needed to be addressed before cell-based meat can be publicly available. Those 3 flaws are the cost, availability, and public stigma towards cell-based meat. How much are you willing to spend on cell-based meat? In 2013, it would cost you $300,000 to buy a cell-based hamburger. But in 2021, according to Mark Post, the founder of Mosa Meat, a team that developed cell-based meat, and the scientists behind the first cell-based hamburger, that price will drop to just $9. But that is still 9 times the price of a current regular hamburger. Next is the problem of availability. In developing countries like Indonesia, where I live, there are 0 commercially available cell-based meats in stores. This will prevent most consumers to not be able to access cell-based meat. Lastly is the public stigma. According to a YouGov survey, 62% of Indonesians are not willing to try cell-based meat. But there are always solutions. There are 2 major solutions to the cost of cell-based meat. First is through increasing funding towards cell-based meat. By increasing funding towards cell-based meat, it will be more likely to find a cheaper, more efficient solution. Another way, according to the Good Food Institute, is to create an industrial-scale production of cell-based meat. To solve the availability of cell-based meat, I believe that we should also increase funding towards it. By increasing funding towards cell-based meat, more areas will be able to produce and sell cell-based meat. To solve the problem of the public stigma towards cell-based meat, I believe the best way to solve this is through education. By educating the public about the benefits of cell-based meat through promotional videos, social media, and campaigns, I believe more people will be open to it. This is a timeline of cell-based meat. I believe if we solve all these major flaws by the end of the 2020s, by 2030, cell-based meat will be available all over the world. But how can you help? By donating to nonprofit organizations like the New Harvest and the Good Food Institute, you will accelerate the research going towards cell-based meat to create, once again, a better, cheaper solution. Cell-based meat seems to not only be a profitable industry, but also one that's helped solve global issues like climate change and food shortage. The general public should be more open to this, not only for themselves, but for the earth as a whole. Thank you.